Good evening and welcome to tonight's romantic sleep story for grown-ups. Baked with Love. The view from inside the bakery is cozy and warm. Outside, citygoers parade past the floor-to-ceiling window at the front of Liam's bakery, their umbrellas dotting the gray morning, a sea of black marking the march of corporate workers heading into the heart of the city. Here and there, a crimson red, a muted royal blue, or a bright yellow breaks through, carried by those hoping to shake free from the monotony of their structured lives. Raindrops tap gently against the glass, casting a soft blur on the bustling street, as if the world outside is somehow separate from the warmth Liam has built inside. It's where patrons come searching for a small escape, a moment of quiet happiness, where the smell of freshly baked bread drifts into the city like an invisible current, pulling them in one by one for their morning pastries or mid-afternoon tea delights. Inside, Liam's bakery glows with a golden warmth, like the soft embrace of candlelight on a rainy evening. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed in weathered wood let the gentle shimmer of string lights reflect off misty glass, casting a dreamy glow across the room. The walls, a mix of rustic brick and wooden slats, are lined with shelves brimming with crusty loaves, braided breads, and golden croissants. It's the kind of place where time slows down, a quiet refuge where the scent of cinnamon and rising dough mingles with the sound of rain tapping softly outside. Tucked near the windows, cozy seating beckons, cushioned benches, bent wood chairs, and small round tables. A couple of patrons linger by the windows, sipping from ceramic mugs as golden bulbs twinkle above them like stars. The sign above the entrance reads, "The Morning Table," is written in soft cursive above the entrance, with the tagline beneath it, "Cakes, pastries, and comfort." In this cozy corner of the city, Liam's bakery has become just that for many of his patrons, a true morning table, where the warmth of fresh baked goods offers a quiet sense of calm, like breakfast on a slow Sunday morning. Today he was preparing something special for someone who, admittedly, had become something truly special in his life. Emma, or as he'd always called her, Em. Through a short archway framed by exposed brick and warm wooden trim lay Liam's sacred space. On most days, sunlight streamed through the upper windows, casting golden rays that sliced through the air and lit up the drifting flour dust like morning mist. But today, it was the soft patter of rain against the glass that filled the silence. The storm stirred memories in Liam's mind, moments with Emma he had always taken for granted, now glowing with a new meaning. He remembered the first day they met, his last year of high school, a new kid trying to find his place. Emma was the first person who didn't just nod politely, but really saw him. For a little while, he'd had a bit of a crush on her. Nothing serious, just something that faded before it ever turned into anything. They ended up becoming really good friends, supporting each other over awkward odd jobs to help pay for college, swapping late-night texts when life felt overwhelming. There were afternoons when Emma would bring him coffee during long study sessions, the steam warming their hands and breaking the silence. Liam missed now how she bit her bottom lip when she was really into a book, that small, unconscious gesture that revealed her whole world. When his brother got sick and was hospitalized, Emma was there, not just visiting, but sitting quietly by his side when he needed someone to lean on. She held him steady through those hardest days, her presence a soft anchor when everything else felt like it was unraveling. And the little things, how she'd carefully pick out thoughtful gifts, not just for him, but for his mom or the new girlfriend he was trying to figure out. How she'd drop by the bakery in the early mornings, sitting quietly at the table while he worked, waiting patiently for a moment to chat or share a laugh. The evenings they spent walking through the park, sitting side by side on the bench, talking about everything and nothing, their laughter mixing with the soft rustling of leaves. When she told him she was taking the journalism job in Chicago, he smiled and said he was happy for her. But inside a hollow ache grew. The thought of not having her nearby, no more late night talks, no more shared coffees, no more quiet moments, made him realize how much of his life was wrapped up in her. He thought back to the times she was with someone else. He told himself it was just being a good friend, feeling protective. But now he saw it clearly, those moments of jealousy when she smiled at another, the way his chest tightened, the subtle ache when laughter that wasn't his filled the room. He hadn't just wanted her to be happy. He wanted her. Now, as the rain blurred the world beyond the windows, his thoughts mirrored the storm, clouded, heavy, and full of what-ifs. As he worked on Emma's cake, a London fog with Earl Grey buttercream, it was her favorite. Delicate strokes of lavender petals swept up the side like brush strokes on a canvas, each one painted by hand. Wisps of real lavender nestled alongside soft white roses, their blooms unfolding as gently as the feeling he hadn't yet dared speak aloud. A crown of pale florals and carefully placed macarons rested on top, almost too pretty to disturb. He added fine touches of gold leaf, letting it catch the light, an echo of how Emma had quietly brightened his world. He didn't rush. He couldn't. This cake wasn't just any birthday cake. It was a love letter in layers, each one whispering what he still couldn't bring himself to say. Liam was the kind of man who rarely said everything he felt. His words were measured, careful, often trailing off into pauses that hinted at so much more beneath the surface. But in the quiet hum of early mornings, as the scent of vanilla and cinnamon drifted from the oven, Liam spoke in layers, through his cakes, his pastries, and the tender precision of each delicate glaze or dusting of sugar. A man of few words, but one who said everything through his craft. with rugged good looks that made people glance twice, steel blue eyes that held the calm of winter skies, a strong jaw framed by a neatly kept beard, and tousled dark hair that never quite behaved. Liam carried himself with an easy, understated charm. There was a quiet strength in the way he moved, like someone who never needed to raise his voice to be heard. His usual black t-shirt clung to broad shoulders and hinted at someone who cared about discipline, but who poured it all into the rhythm of baking rather than words. Though his hands were now meant for kneading dough and whisking batters, Liam's mind had once been shaped by numbers and logic, a finance degree tucked quietly into his past, like a pressed flower in a forgotten book. He had planned his life like a recipe, smart, safe, well measured, but nothing could have prepared him for Emma. The girl who once borrowed flour from his mother's kitchen had grown into a woman with stars in her eyes and a suitcase bound for the city. And Liam, he had watched her go with a smile that never quite reached his eyes, holding on to the quiet ache of everything he hadn't said. Because sometimes the boy next door doesn't realize he's in love until she's already gone. She had taken a leap, not toward him, but toward a future she hadn't fully pictured. She left behind the comfort of familiar bakery windows and the city that had shaped her, chasing a career that demanded courage she hadn't known she possessed. Still, Liam stayed with her, in quiet moments, in the spaces between her days, like the final line of a poem she could never quite write. They stayed in touch, remained close, but she always held something back, wondering if he'd ever look at her and see all the things she never found the words to say. Now Emma had landed a position at a major news station in another state, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around twice. It was a contract role, 2 years, offering stability, prestige, and the kind of challenge she'd quietly dreamed of. Known for her thoughtful reporting style and the emotional depth she brought to every story, she caught the attention of a senior producer who believed she had something rare, empathy wrapped in eloquence. Though the job offered a bigger stage, it also meant leaving behind the familiar, including Liam. Signing that contract wasn't easy, but Emma knew she couldn't keep orbiting a life that made her feel stuck. She needed to find her voice, and this job offered her the space and distance to finally use it. Emma's the kind of person who doesn't need to announce herself, yet somehow fills the room like a favorite song you didn't realize you'd been missing. Her dark chocolate hair falls in soft, effortless waves, brushing her shoulders in a way that feels like the quiet comfort on a Sunday morning. Warm, calm, and familiar. Framed by tortoiseshell glasses, her sea glass green eyes seem to hold entire stories in a single glance. Curious, kind, and quietly brilliant. There's a softness to her smile, one that stretches just a little more when she talks about the things that make her heart settle. Dusty libraries, rainy windows, and jasmine tea steeped just right. She's naturally warm, the kind of person who listens like it's her superpower, who makes others feel seen without needing to say much at all. And yet, for all her tenderness, she's reserved, shy in a way that makes her feel almost untouched by the world, like she's saving pieces of herself for someone who might really understand. She'd been in love with Liam, the boy next door, for as long as she could remember. It was one of those quiet, slow-burning things that never needed announcing, always there, tucked between casual glances across the yard, shared rides to school, inside jokes only they understood, and the way he always made her feel seen, even if not quite in the way she wanted. He loved her too, just not in the way he ever fully understood or admitted to himself. Their friendship was easy, safe, so he never pushed, never asked what it could be, maybe because she never gave him a reason to. She just stayed steady, close, always there, and he grew to rely on that closeness without ever questioning what it really meant. So while she kept her heart quiet, he kept pretending not to feel the thing that had been right in front of him all along, until she left. Now, outside the morning table, rain fell in a soft, steady rhythm, tapping against the bakery windows like a lullaby. Inside, Liam piped the final delicate flour onto the cake, the scent of vanilla and warm sugar wrapping around him like a blanket. The bell above the door jingled, and in came his mother, her umbrella dripping gently in the corner. "Wow," she said, brushing rain from her shoulders. "That one is gorgeous, honey." She tilted her head, squinting knowingly. "Let me guess. Someone's back in town." She smiled. "That cake's even better than the one you made me for Mother's Day. If that's for Em, she's going to love it. I hope it's not for Cassidy. I never liked that woman." "Mom," Liam said with a quiet groan, giving her a look. She laughed, then reached out and gently wiped a bit of flour from his cheek. All right, Mom's the word. I just know it's been hard since Em left." Wanting to change the subject, Liam asked, "Are you here for those pastries?" "Yes, off to your dad's Rotary Club," she said, picking up the brown paper bag. "I tucked a little box for Miss Everly too," Liam added. "Oh, she'll love that, sweetheart." She paused at the door, listening for a moment to the soft hush of the rain. "Well, good to see you, honey, and good luck with Em tonight." With a knowing wink and a gentle wave, she stepped out into the drizzle, her umbrella blooming like a quiet flower against the gray. As the bell above the bakery door jingled behind his mother, Liam closed the cake box with quiet care, brushing a few stray crumbs from the edge as if tidying could calm the storm within him. Could his mother be right? Maybe it really was as simple as telling Em how he felt. And maybe, just maybe, she might feel the same. But it felt like the moment had already slipped too far away. She'd signed a 2-year contract in another state, and now he wanted to speak his heart. Even to himself, it sounded like too little, too late. Meanwhile, Emma sat quietly as the final hour of her flight ticked by. 6 months. It had been 6 months since she'd last seen Liam. And yet, here she was, stomach flipping like it always did when she thought of him. They'd been friends for years, and even after she finally stopped putting her life on hold, she still hadn't found the courage to tell him how she felt. There was always someone else. Ashley, Jessica, and then Cassidy. That one had been the last straw. It was almost as if Cassidy had the sixth sense that Emma was secretly in love with Liam. She always made it extra clear that Liam was with her, holding her hand, kissing her lips, touching her hair, his hand on her waist. Why was she always just the dorky smart friend? Good enough to laugh with, to lean on, but never the one someone fell in love with. At least, not with Liam. But the butterflies never left. Neither did the way her heart responded to the smallest things, his quiet glances, the warmth of his voice when they were alone, the accidental touches that always felt like more, even if they never were. So she left. She took the job, left her hometown, and left Liam. Because staying had started to hurt more than leaving ever could. Emma sat quietly, her thoughts drifting between old memories and the quiet space that had grown between them. After she moved, the calls and texts had naturally faded. She always told herself she was too busy with work. But the truth was, avoiding Liam was easier than pretending she was over him. Letting go of him had become something she had to do, even if he never realized she was doing it. This trip home was supposed to be quick. A few days with family, nothing more. But then Liam found out she was coming home for a brief visit. Thanks to the usual grapevine, their moms were still close, after all. And now somehow she'd agreed to drop by the bakery tonight, just before closing. For a coffee, she told herself. Just a coffee. But her heart wasn't buying it. Rain clung to Emma's coat and soaked the hem of her jeans as she made her way down the quiet street. The city glistened under the street lights, every drop on the pavement echoing the rhythm of her anxious heart. She paused for a moment outside the bakery, its windows glowing softly against the night. Inside, the warm hum of life continued. Murmured conversations, clinking teacups, and the rich scent of sugar and spice that wrapped around her like a memory. She pushed open the door. A bell chimed gently above her, and the warmth rushed over her skin, chasing away the chill. A few late-night patrons lingered, nestled at corner tables with slices of cake and steaming mugs of tea, lost in quiet chatter. The place felt unchanged, calm, familiar, like slipping into an old sweater. Behind the counter, Liam was wiping down the surface, preparing to close. He hadn't noticed her at first, but then he looked up. Their eyes met. Emma's breath hitched. She looked away quickly, forcing herself to recover. She gave him a small wave, the kind you give an old friend, and added the practiced smile she had used so many times before. But inside, her heart stuttered. Her hands felt clammy, and something tight pulled in her chest. He looked even better than she remembered. Broad-shouldered, warm-eyed, with that smile that had always unraveled her. She longed to run into his arms, bury her face into his neck, and breathe in the scent of him. She wanted what she had always silently craved, to kiss him, to hold him, to do all the things friends never could. But instead, there were polite smiles, stiff hug, and unspoken truths that evaporated into the air between them. Liam wrapped his arms around her briefly, a familiar hold that felt too short and too careful. But before pulling back, he leaned in just enough to whisper near her ear, "I've missed you." Emma's eyes closed for a split second. His words sank deep, softening her from the inside out. "It's so good to see you, Em. Can you just give me a minute? I just gotta finish closing up," Liam asked. "Of course, yeah. I've missed you too," she said awkwardly, struggling with her own truths seeping out of her mouth so quickly. "I'll just go over and have a seat over there. My favorite spot," she said, pointing to the table right beside the long windows that looked out into the city streets. Emma sat there, thinking of how to organize the conversation once he would sit down with her, not noticing how Liam occasionally looked in her direction, realizing more and more how much he missed Emma. Why did he take so long to realize that it was her all along? He quickly steeped her favorite warm drink, an Earl Grey London fog. At least he hoped it was still her favorite drink as he brewed it, secretly stealing glances at her. She looked so beautiful, her face lit by the golden street lamps just outside the bakery windows. He watched her with admiration, an ache in his heart, and an unfamiliar flutter in his stomach. He carefully brewed the cup of warm tea and carried it over to her. "Hope this is still your favorite too," he said with a wink as their eyes met. As he placed the mug onto the table, he reached behind his neck, awkwardly scratching it. He wasn't used to being the one to feel nervous around a woman, especially Em. This felt new to him too. Emma looked at Liam, her beautiful smile reflecting in her emerald green eyes. "You know me too well," she said. "Yep, still my favorite." As she said those words, she really meant them about Liam. Liam's half smile and the way his eyes sparkled when he looked at her, it always made her melt. And when he winked, she felt herself slipping right back into that old familiar crush, the one that never really went away. "I'll be right back," he said. Liam spent a few moments going around the tables to ensure his patrons' bills were paid and the tables were cleaned as they exited the bakery. Emma watched one by one as the couples and a man who had been working on his laptop in the corner and FaceTiming what looked like someone he was in a long-distance relationship with, all slowly filed out of the bakery and unfurled their umbrellas as they headed home for the night. Now, it was just Liam and Emma, alone. Liam called out to her from across the bakery after locking the door and flipping the open sign to closed. As he moved about cleaning, he asked Emma how she'd been. It was the usual small talk at first. Studio updates, her journal writing, but then came the shift. The awkward pause. Emma admitted she'd met someone. The words caught Liam off guard. He'd been reaching for the final touch to her birthday cake, a delicate piece of chocolate he planned to place carefully on top. In his other hand, he held the small card he'd written earlier, the one where he finally told her how he felt. He'd imagined it all, The surprise, the cake, the candlelit moment of truth. Romantic, honest, and timed just right. But the mention of a guy and the fact that she'd said that they'd been seeing each other for a couple of months knocked the wind out of him. He hesitated, frozen in place for a beat too long, before slipping the card into the back pocket of his jeans. He decided in that moment he wouldn't give it to her. Not tonight. Instead, he carried the cake over, lighting a single candle on top as he approached. Emma was digging through her purse for something when she looked up and saw the cake. "Oh, wow," she gasped. "It's not until Monday." "I wanted it to be a surprise," Liam said, and he meant it, every word. But Matthew, whoever he was, lingered in his thoughts like an unwanted echo. Still, Liam pushed those feelings aside and began to sing. Emma blushed deeply. In her mind, it was all tangled. Happiness, regret, and the flood of emotions she thought she'd left behind when she boarded that plane. Everything she felt for Liam was still there, no matter how much she tried to deny it. She loved his voice, the way he looked at her, the way he always had. As tears welled in her eyes, she swallowed hard, then looked from the cake to Liam, her lips parted in a silent thank you. The cake was beautiful. Lavender flowers piped delicately around its edge, each one made by hand. Liam sat across from her, the warm candlelight flickering between them. It glowed like the quiet flame between them, one they both tried to ignore, but couldn't quite put out. Emma closed her eyes and made her wish. Liam watched her, wondering what she could be wishing for. Then his eyes lingered longingly on her lips, and he swallowed to control his own emotions. Emma blew out the candles and started to admire Liam's work. "It's so beautiful. I can't believe you remembered," she trailed off. "Yeah, of course I would remember. Come on, Em. We're friends. We've known each other like forever." His words trailed off as he thought about the situation they were in. Romantic, yet guarded. As Emma continued to admire the cake's intricate details, a strand of her hair fell onto her face, and Liam could not help but sweep it behind her ear. He didn't even think, but it made Emma stop and take a look at him. His hand slowly traced the side of her cheek as they looked at each other. She could feel her heart racing now. Could this be something more she had always been waiting for? Tonight, Liam felt different. Their evening together felt different. Then an oven alarm bell began to beep, interrupting the moment. Emma sat up straight, and for a moment they were both caught off guard. Liam realized what he had unintentionally done, got out of his seat and excused himself to turn off the alarm and get some cutlery so they could enjoy the cake together. As he left the table, Liam ran one hand through his hair, replaying the moment in his mind. What was stopping him? Why hadn't he just leaned in for the kiss? He'd seen the signs when their eyes met. There was some uncertainty, yes, but now it seemed she might have felt something for him too. When he returned, they ended up talking long into the night, catching up on everything that had happened since she'd left. It had been awkward when Emma left 6 months ago. She had prepared a letter for Liam that she never gave him, and he had jokingly asked her not to go. Words he was only then realizing how much he truly meant. Emma had deliberately kept her distance, saying she was busy with her new job, and gradually the distance grew between them. Now, here they were again. "I've really missed you," Liam began, after they had just had a laugh, but there was a momentary pause. "Guess you've been quite busy with your new job. Barely hear from you anymore." Those words hurt Emma deeply because Liam didn't know how long she had been pining for him, and had only taken the job to escape her feelings for him. That's when Liam's phone began to ring, and Emma could see the caller ID was Cassidy. She clocked in her mind that he was still with her. Liam didn't pick up the call, but instead flipped the phone to face the table. Still looking at Emma, he said, But Emma interrupted him. "Oh man, it's late, isn't it?" she said, feigning a yawn as she cupped her hands around her mouth. It was late, 3 a.m. late. They had talked for hours. Feeling a bit hurt seeing Cassidy on Liam's phone, Emma brought up Matthew. Why shouldn't she thought. He was a great guy and someone who openly dated Emma with no baggage whatsoever. "Hey, maybe if you ever come to visit me, I can show you around and Matthew and I can take you out." With those words, Liam felt a bit of a shock, like someone was probing at his heart from inside, poking at the part of him for letting Em go. "Right," he said. "Yeah, that would be fun," he added, not really meaning the words but saying them enough to sound believable. "I'll take you home," Liam said as he got up from the table. The car ride through town was awkward. Only the rain pounding on the car and windshield wipers whooshing to keep them from having to say anything. Liam hesitated to speak, mulling over the fact that Emma was seeing someone and seemed happy. She sure acted like this Matthew person was a great guy. Smart, interested in the same things she was, and working at the same company. Emma just didn't want to fall into her old ways again, even though she secretly stole glances at Liam as he drove her home, rolling her eyes to herself, thinking about how Liam was still with perfect Cassidy. Little did she know that Liam and Cassidy had called it quits, but Cassidy was still hung up on Liam. That was that. In a few days, Emma would fly back, and neither of them knew when they would see each other again. Days, then weeks passed, until finally Liam couldn't take it anymore and decided to call Emma. But Matthew picked up Emma's phone and asked if he could take a message, something Liam did not want to leave, especially with him. The men had a brief acquaintance over the phone until Emma got on the line, and Liam found some lame excuse that it was nothing. He just wanted to see how she was doing. Emma felt like everything was better as she got back into her work routine, and Matthew was a great distraction. It wasn't until about 3 months into their relationship that she awkwardly found out that he was still seeing other people. And it just so happened that they had slept with each other for the first time a week prior. He broke it to her in a joking manner. "Come on, we didn't say we were exclusive, right? We were having fun. I'm not looking for a commitment right now." I thought that was pretty clear. "Emma, I love hanging out with you." She listened as he convinced her, and what seemed to be himself, how justified it was that they were just having fun, and there was no obligation between them. But Emma cried that night. How stupid she felt. She had a few too many drinks and called Liam as he was on a date with another woman. Liam excused himself from his date to take Emma's call. "Hey, Em, it's really good to hear from you," he said, stepping out into the cool night air, the hum of the restaurant fading behind him. There was a beat of silence, then the sound of her soft inhale. "Hey," she finally said. Her voice wavered, slightly slurred but still trying to sound steady. "Sorry, I know it's late." "You okay?" he asked, already feeling the tightness in his chest. Emma let out a dry laugh that didn't quite reach her usual warmth. "Yeah, totally." A pause. "Except, no, not really." He could hear the shift in her tone, the weight behind the words she was unraveling slowly. "He is seeing other people. After I slept with him. I guess I didn't think." Her voice dropped lower. "He thought it was obvious." The words sliced through him before the ache could fully register. He clenched his jaw, a flicker of something bitter sparking beneath the concern. Of course some guy had gotten close enough to hurt her, and of course she trusted him. Liam shut his eyes, steadying the quiet storm inside. Then the tears came, quiet at first, then harder, and he felt helpless standing there, phone pressed to his ear, listening to the girl he hadn't realized he cared for this deeply cry over someone who didn't deserve her. "I just feel so stupid," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I should have known better." Liam was about to speak when she cut in again, her voice softer now. No, wait. Her words came slower, more fragile. "I've been thinking a lot lately about home, about before I left." Her voice cracked through her tears. She trailed off, caught between saying too much and not enough. Then quietly, too honest to take back, she said, "Sometimes I wonder if things would have been different. Sometimes I wish you hadn't let me go. Why'd you let me go?" The question landed like a stone. It hurt to say, and it showed. She hadn't meant to let it slip, but deep down she wanted to. Whether he'd fully grasped the meaning behind her words, she didn't know. But in that raw, unfiltered moment, she wanted to tell him everything. Just this once, she wanted to let her guard down. Before Liam could answer, his date stepped outside and asked if everything was all right. Emma heard the voice, faint but unmistakably female. She didn't say anything at first. Then, with a bitter smile in her tone, "You're out." A pause. "Of course you are." "Emma," Liam started. "No, it's fine," she said quickly, snapping back into control. "I don't even know why I called. I'm sorry. Just forget it." She hung up before he could stop her. Liam tried calling her back, but it went straight to voicemail. He stood under the awning, phone still in his hand, thoughts spinning. He texted her anyway. "Please call me back, Em. I'm worried." It wasn't until the next day, after she had sobered up and remembered calling him, that she profusely apologized for her behavior. "Don't apologize," he said. "I'm just glad you're okay." "Sorry, I ruined your date, maybe?" "It doesn't matter," he replied. Emma hesitated before adding, "Whatever I said yesterday, please. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of those things I said." Liam paused, remembering how he'd stayed up most of the night waiting for Emma to call or text back, replaying her question over and over in his mind. "Don't worry," he said. "Already forgot about it." Liam didn't push. He let her words hang between them, even if they felt unfinished. Sometimes things needed space, and so they changed the subject, talked about everything and nothing until the sun was starting to rise. When they finally said goodnight, there was no mention of what had been said or unsaid, but something had shifted, quietly, imperceptibly. Days turned into weeks, calls turned into routine, and even though life moved forward, something about that night lingered. Although Liam went on the occasional date, he found himself thinking of Emma and regretting that he hadn't gone after her, even now. It wasn't until Emma returned to town 6 months later to attend a mutual friend's wedding that they saw each other in person again. Time had flowed so effortlessly, never waiting for either of them. Liam's gift to the bride and groom was going to be a wedding cake, a sheet cake, and he was also helping arrange some pastries at the banquet. But the best part of the wedding was that Emma was coming home for a whole week this time. It was another rainy afternoon at the bakery, long hours, but the kind Liam didn't mind. The warm scent of freshly baked bread mixed with the rich aroma of roasted coffee, while smooth jazz played softly in the background, wrapping the room in a mellow, comforting atmosphere. Jake, Liam's brother, stopped by to pick up something for his wife Jenny, who was hosting a baby shower that weekend. They chatted about everyday stuff, the easy kind of guy talk that only brothers share. But when Emma's name came up, everything shifted. "I don't get it, man," Jake said. "You're making this way more complicated than it needs to be." Liam shook his head. "It's because it's M. That's why it's complicated." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Boy likes girl? Pretty sure girl likes guy. So get together," he said, sounding reasonable and looking at Liam with quiet logic. "But what if things don't work out?" Liam asked. Jake shrugged. You're living on what if? Do you see yourself hurting Em? Before Liam could answer, Jake added, clearly no. Maybe the timing was off before, but now you're both single. I don't see what's stopping you. Liam frowned. What about the fact that she's started a life 5 hours away? 5 hours by plane. Jake just laughed. Yeah, well, you can figure that out later. That's my 2 cents as your brother. Em's a great girl. I think you let her get away once, but not even trying. That doesn't sound like you, Liam. You're a calculated guy, and yeah, women tend to come easy for you. But Em's not just any girl. Maybe that's what's holding you back. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. I guess I'll see you guys both soon, he said as he left the bakery. Liam thought as he worked, letting his mind wander and come to a decision on how he would approach things with Emma. Emma had promised to stop by the bakery and help him with wedding preparations, even though Liam pretty much had things under control. The day was wet and gray outside, the steady tap of rain against the windows bringing a quiet comfort as Liam worked. Then Emma finally arrived. Liam's heart pounded harder than usual. Normally he was cool and confident around women, smooth and in control. But with Emma, everything felt different. Everything just flew out the window. Liam smiled, then took her umbrella and helped her with her wet jacket. Let me get this for you, he said, stepping toward the door where the rain fell softly. He stepped forward and pulled her in to their usual hug, the kind that felt like coming home after a long time apart. As they pulled apart, Liam's eyes caught the light dusting of flowers scattered across her black tank top from their hug. Oh man, I got flour all over you, he said with a chuckle, reaching out to brush it off. His hand moved gently to dust it off her collarbone, but as he swept the flour away, his fingers accidentally grazed the curve of her breast. The soft, unexpected contact sent a jolt through him. He felt the perkiness of her curves beneath his hand and the slight bounce as she shifted. For a moment Liam froze, his usual smooth composure cracking as a rush of desire caught him off guard. Sorry, he muttered, voice low and a bit shaken, rubbing the space between his eyebrows as he realized what he'd done. Emma looked up, cheeks flushed pink, eyes wide but warm. It's okay, she said softly, brushing the flour off herself. Don't worry about it, she added quickly, trying to lift the awkwardness. But inside, she secretly wished he hadn't pulled back, her mind flashing to the quiet fantasies she had held for years, of him pulling her close, closing the distance between them, his hands exploring every curve. Emma too had been feeling the growing closeness between them. The way their late night calls lingered, the silences that felt loaded with something more, all leading to this moment. Throughout the day, Liam's attention kept slipping toward her in subtle, telling ways. A glance that lasted a beat too long, the way his hands would stay on hers just a second longer than necessary when guiding her, and the soft, knowing smile that lit his face every time she laughed or blushed under his gaze. Her heart jumped whenever their fingers touched, and when he stood behind her at the counter, guiding her hands as they worked the dough together, the heat of his body against hers made her breath catch. His cologne, warm, woodsy cedar, wrapped around her, and the soft murmur of his voice as he instructed her, left her only able to nod at his directions. His breath grazed her cheek as he leaned in close, and her body responded instinctively, a quiet ache looming inside her as desire slowly, steadily built. Liam wanted her in those moments too, but resisted the temptation. Liam was distracted, his eyes on Emma as she laughed at something he'd said, her smile catching him off guard. He reached into the oven, lifted the pan, and misjudged the space. The edge of the hot oven rim grazed his forearm, and he flinched back with a sharp breath. "Damn," he muttered, pulling his arm away quickly. The tray clattered slightly as he set it down, pressing the skin where a red line was already forming. Emma's expression changed instantly. "You okay?" Caught the side," he said, trying to brush it off, though the sting was sharper than he'd expected. "Let me see." She moved quickly, grabbing ointment and a bandage from the drawer. Her fingers were gentle as she applied the cool ointment, her face close to his. The faint smell of rain mixed with the warm kitchen air filled the quiet space between them. Her hand lingered as she wrapped the bandage, fingers brushing his skin a moment longer than necessary. Liam's eyes met hers. "Thanks," he said softly, meaning more than the word could hold. Emma looked up and held his gaze. "No problem," she replied, letting the moment slip away with a faint disappointment hanging in the air, neither of them making the final move. As afternoon faded into evening and the city grew quiet under a soft drizzle, they sat together with coffee, watching the rain bead and slide down the window pane. The world felt still, intimate. Tired from the day's work, they reclined on the long benches in an L shape, heads cradled in their hands, sharing quiet conversation. At one point, laughter bubbled up between them, so sudden and light that they both toppled off the benches, holding their stomachs, pillows scattered to the floor. They landed close together in the corner, their bodies nearly flush. Liam reached to help Emma up, but in the awkward scramble, their heads knocked gently. Apologies melted into laughter and groans as they rubbed their bumps, but the closeness lingered. Now side by side, face to face, the air thickened. Emma could smell Liam's cologne. It felt like a light switch inside the most intimate parts of her body. And his hand, once meant to steady her, stayed wrapped around her wrist, thumb gently circling her skin. Emma couldn't hold it in any longer. She was building the courage inside of her to break that hidden barrier between them. She began breathing deeper, trying to control her nerves, her chest rising under her tight tank top as she slowly guided his hand to her waist. His attention was on her rising chest and the way she guided his hands to her body, encouraging him to make his move. Liam's instincts took over. His touch grew bolder, sliding along the dip of her waist and around her hips, pulling her closer and maneuvering her until she was straddling his lap. She moved with him instinctively, her body molding into his, heat blooming in every place they touched. Her hands were on his chest, feeling his strong pectorals and his heart beating in his chest. Their eyes locked on one another. Their lips finally met, a burst of intensity between them. Everything felt like it was in slow motion from the depth of their feelings, but it all happened in a matter of seconds. His lips left hers only to begin kissing her neck. The urgency between them built, their hands beginning to reach under each other's clothing. They surrendered, not just to the passion that had simmered for months, but to the undeniable need now spilling over. Raw, electric, and impossible to hold back any longer. His hands roamed with growing confidence, exploring the curves of her body as she wrapped herself around him, arms draped over his shoulders, fingers tangled in his hair, kissing him deeply. "Oh, Liam," she cried into his ear, kissing his face as he explored her body, finding each other's lips over and over again. Even though the intensity was building, Liam managed to pause, holding back the rush of his feelings. He closed his eyes and tightened his shoulders. He pulled away from the kiss, locked his strong hands around her waist to pull them apart for a second, looked into Emma's eyes and whispered, "Em, I think I'm in love with you." Those words hung between them, warm and tender, even more fulfilling after their shared kiss. Emma smiled softly, tears glistening in her eyes, still breathing heavy from the intense moment, but finally sighing in relief. She unstraddled his legs and sat beside him, finding his hand instead. Her head lay back onto the bench. "Liam, I've been in love with you for a long time." Her voice trembled with relief and hope. They both looked up at the ceiling and chuckled quietly, the sound full of wonder at how long it had taken to reach this moment. Their hands were now fully entangled, fingers latched in connection. Then Emma rested her head on his shoulder, still holding each other's hands. In that quiet shared space, they felt a peaceful excitement, ready to begin the next gentle chapter of their story together. Liam picked up their hands, kissed the back of Emma's, and turned to face her. "Will you be my +1 at the wedding?" he chuckled, finally feeling the ease of asking Emma out.